Hey, what is up guys? We're here coming at you with another Legendary review, and today we're taking a look at Upper Deck's Legendary Villains Marvel deck building game. Legendary Villains is the first standalone expansion to Upper Deck's hit Marvel deck building game, in which basically takes the concept of its original game where you play as S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives hiring various legendary Marvel heroes to take out various legendary Marvel villains on its head, where you play as Hydra agents basically hiring villains to kill heroes. It's a really fun game that really messes around with some of the core mechanics of the base game, as well as adding some new elements that make the game so much more enjoyable and a lot less bricky. One of the first two of the new elements they add are the mechanic Dodge, which allows you to basically discard the card from your hand to draw an extra card. As well as that, they add a brand new 2-cost card called the New Recruits. And there is actually specific villains that revolve around the New Recruits as a card. So many times in base legendary and encounters, I've run into hands where I've had 4 attack and only 2 money, and now that I have a 2 money card that I can buy, that's always available to all players, I think it's a really good addition to the game. As well as the dodge mechanic allowing you to get rid of dead cards in your hand. If you only have 2 money and you can't buy anything, you can always discard it to draw a new card. It's not limited to once per turn, and there are decks specifically that revolve around the mechanic. Being a base set, of course, the game comes with a bunch of different characters that you can recruit for your deck. In fact, there are 15 different villains across the Marvel Universe. Now, we're not going to go through all of them, but we're going to go through one of each of the 5 different factions of villains you get. Obviously, starting off with Spider-Man, you get my favorite Marvel character, Venom. He has one of the coolest decks of the entire game that I've seen so far, basically KOing the game's 1-point bystanders to get additional pluses. He's very fun to play and synergizes perfectly with himself. And that's one thing I want to talk, like, all the villains in this, their decks, if you build them mono, play how you would expect them to play. You get, for the Brotherhood of Mutants, or the X-Men villains, you get probably one of the most popular villains in the history of Marvel Comics, which is Magneto. He's easily one of the best villains. You get, one of your Thor villains is, of course, Loki. Of course, Loki has to be in here. You also get Kingpin, who doubles, of course, technically as a Spider-Man villain and a Daredevil villain, which makes perfect sense to include him, as there is a Marvel Knights expansion, which includes Daredevil, as well as a Spider-Man expansion, which is really cool. And then of course, you have Ultron, who has no allegiance other than himself, and combos perfectly well on his own. Each character feels how you would expect them to play if you build them mono, which is a lot of fun. Now, because given you guys are villains, you want to know what heroes you're actually fighting against. Well, in the base game, of course, you may remember the term of a Mastermind, which is the villain that you fight. In this, they're renamed to Commanders. The first one you have is Professor Xavier. Of course, Xavier leads the X-Men First Class, which includes Jean Grey and Cyclops, and there's a few others as well. You have Nick Fury, who brings with him the Avengers, as you would expect, including Iron Man and Captain America and a few others. The Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange, brings with him the Defenders, which will include Daredevil and Iron Fist. Of course, it doesn't actually include Jessica Jones, but it does include Luke Cage as well. And finally, for the last Mastermind, you're probably expecting someone really cool like Spider-Man, or another really cool villain, a really cool Mastermind, like someone from the Marvel Knights universe. Oh no, we have Doctor Strange, but someone like who you wouldn't normally expect. Maybe like Reed Richards, or that would be really cool. But of course, we don't have Doctor Doom. But yeah, we got Odin. Yay. Odin leads the Asgardian warriors. They're all the same and are boring. You fight them, you draw a card. Sure, he has the most attack of all the Masterminds in the set, but in this game set. But he's just, I don't know. I haven't played against him, but I'm not enticed to, because his mandatory ad is just so boring and doesn't seem enticing. It, to me, is the biggest letdown of the entire set, as so much of the set seems to be focused around Spider-Man, yet you have no Spider-Man Mastermind to fight. He does appear as a backup adversary, but, I mean, I'm a little disappointed, considering that the box artwork has 2 Spider-Man villains on it. Spider-Man himself is one of the only heroes featured in the city artwork. He's also featured on the plot On the plot and scheme cards, the bystanders feature Mary Jane and Green Goblin, and of course you do have this one of my most favorite Venom covers here in the sewers as well. The game comes with 3 other sets of adversaries that you can use however you want to make up whatever adversary deck you want to. Of course, first off is the Marvel Knights, which includes characters such as Ghost Rider and Elektra. You also have another group of X-Men called the Uncanny X-Men, which includes Shadowcat and Wolverine, which also have some nice synergy as well. So as you can see here, Shadowcat and Wolverine have this ability called Extreme Attack. Now, Extreme Attack means that if they get an extra attack for every other character in the city that has this Extreme Attack. As well as you'll also see on Shadowcat, she has this ability called Elusive 5. Elusive 5 is another mechanic they've added that I believe they added to villains, in the sense that you have to have that much gold in your hand in order to fight. So Shadowcat can actually be quite difficult to play against if you're playing a full X-Men scenario, as if you have a full city full of uncanny X-Men villains, as well heroes, as well as not enough gold in your hand, she can be quite difficult to take out. Spider-Man does appear, like I said, as a backup adversary in his own called the Spider Friends, with Black Cat, and then Moon Knight, and I believe Firebird is the other one. It would have been nice to have seen like other Spider-Man, like Ben Reilly or Kane, featured here, or even Spider-Woman, but we got I think it's Mockingbird and Moon Knight, which are relatively interesting as well. The game also gives us some kind of bit more replayability than Encounters does, as we do get 8 different schemes, and they all range from easy to incredibly difficult. And it is, of course, you can bring in your schemes or plot twists from your other expansions as well, which is what makes this a lot of fun ultimately as well. Ultimately, I do think that Legendary Villains is a very good game for you guys to pick up. It is a $120 retail in Australia, but it does come with over 500 cards. The artwork on the cards is phenomenal, and of course I would love to do a video going through all the cards. If you'd like to see that, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to do that. The art style is perfectly fit towards a comic book based game. Comic book fans, particularly Marvel fans, will love this. As a fan of Marvel myself and a card game fan, Legendary is the perfect game for you guys to play. I love it so much. I'm actually addicted to it. I have an Encounters game and I have a normal Legendary game. Legendary, of course, is a big investment going in, but there's so much you can do with it. There's so much replayability here. You know, and there hasn't been a single person I've introduced to Legendary that's actually disliked the game. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below with your favorite Legendary expansion, as well as what you might like to see from future expansions. Would you like to see a villains expansion that gives us some new heroes to fight against, as well as some new villains to add to our ally deck? As well as, would you like me to do a video on every single card that's in the set? I would love to do that. I've done it for Aliens, the Alien expansion, as well as I went through the Paint the Town Red expansion. Please let me know in the comments below. Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you for my next video.